Done ourselves and attracted in the top man from ARRL, who is new as CEO. We're delighted to have Gallagher with us today. We will have a few announcements in the beginning, and then we'll pass it on over to Tom. We've got a minute to clear his throat or whatever needs to happen. I'm the outgoing president, Carl W2KBF. President-elect for 2017.
Can't go back, Carl. Go back.
KC2 LTM, and I'll allow Judith to take over at this point.
Everyone, it's really a tremendous honor to have Tom here with us this evening. Very good turnout. Very glad. We did a lot of advertising, a lot of expectations on this, and we're hoping it all turns out well for you. Well, I would like to do right here and now Pledge of Allegiance, as we always start our meetings with anyway. So please, everyone, rise. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Have a seat, please. There's a lot happening here tonight, a lot of announcements. People are just happy that Tom showed up. He's going to give us our presentation. What I would like to do now is hand it over to Ed, our
publicity guy.
Publicity guy. Sorry about that. Once again, Ed, you can have it.
Thanks, Judy. Good evening, everyone. It's December the 9th, okay, and it's 2016. No. This is I guess when we stood here about a year ago, we talked about the club and its 60th anniversary, and what we looked to try to do is put together not only, I guess, a club, not only try to remember all the things that sort of went on and for the people who started this club 60 years ago, but we made a promise that we really wanted to look forward. And this is a year, I think, where we really, from the standpoint of program, really tried to drive something that really looked, sort of forward-looking. For those who've been here either as visitors or as speakers, we've had some varied speakers as, probably the leading de-expeditioner, okay, here in the beginning of the year in terms of looking at the Bass Island, for people here to remember that. In terms of looking at top contesters. We had a lot of public officials pass our way, from mayors to borough council people, to people who were, in a sense, public officials, including a United States Senator who came to visit us this year and sort of graced us with a recognition for our 60th anniversary. Tonight, I think we've sort of hit our concept. Speaker in terms of looking at having Tom Gallagher, who's the CEO for the league, speaking to us tonight. Okay, we're honored. Okay, for our little club to have Tom and the league here tonight, I think is really, speaks a lot for what the league does in terms of representing clubs. So, just a little bit, just in terms of just sort of recognition here. Mike Lysenko, right here. Okay, F2YDB. Okay. Yeah. Mike and I are pen pals. Okay, I've got to say this. We are truly pen pals. Every week when I send them a press release, Mike says, I'll get it in. Okay, and there it goes. So, Bill Hunzick's here. Billy, there he is. Okay. So, and obviously, thank you for your support. In terms of looking at programs, looking ahead in terms of looking at January going forward next year. January 20th, okay, for everybody in the room, Frank Donovan, W3LPL, is going to be here, one of the top, okay, really DXers and contesters, I guess, you're really on history, I guess. Okay, we'll be talking about 60 years of contesting and DXing. And then in mid-February, we're actually going to have one of our own as a speaker here. Where's Van? W2DLT. There's Van. Hey, Van, stand. Van is our program chair, and I've got to say, if anybody deserves recognition for what's been done this year, Van does. Okay, so what do we do? What do we do in terms of recognition? We make him a speaker. So he's going to be talking. He was just down in Cuba, okay, for the CQ Worldwide single sideband, and the station was
T48 kilo.
T48 kilo. How many times did you say it, Van?
8,000 contacts.
8,000 times, and he was counting. So there you go. And then we're looking at mid-March with a pilot project with the, I think it's the American Radio Astronomers Association. to talk a little bit about a pilot presentation that they're looking to do on radio astronomy, so we get a chance to not only see it, okay, we actually get a chance to critique it. How many times you get a free vote, okay, to do something like that. So, so that's basically it. We sort of check out our program, FLARC.net. Okay, we'll soon be FairlawnARC.org as we change our URL the first of the year to standardize things. But from there, I think that's really sort of where we are in terms of program. And again, a thank you for everybody, not only for showing up tonight, but also for all your hard work and your interest in making this 60th anniversary just a real great event for this club in terms of just making it what it is, okay, and reflect all the people who've come before us. Without further ado, let me turn the program over to Tom Gallagher. You have a copy of his bio in front of you. There's no need, to recite it. Okay, Tom has taken the job in the last 6 months. April? 9 months. April, okay, 9 months. Yeah, not that plus count. Yeah, and the thing is, I was always told, if you're in management, is that when somebody comes in on a new job, usually they don't get their feet wet until they're in the job about 9 months to a year. So we have you at absolutely the right time. So without further ado, let me turn it over to Tom Gallagher.
Thank you,
NY2R.
It's great to be back in Jersey. I told some folks at dinner tonight that I was born 2 counties south of Union County. And my mother's family comes from Hillside. And they are some of the best politicians that money could buy in New Jersey. Back in the 1920s. They're gone now, but their legacy lives on. Thank you for asking me to come. I'm very, very flattered. This organization is 60 years old. Most organizations don't make it 2 or 3 years. Very few make it to 25, fewer to 50, 60. That's 2.5 generations. You should be very, very proud of what you've accomplished, and I wish you 10 more generations. I wish you absolutely the best. Over in the corner there is a cake with celebrating the club's 60th with the ARRL diamond in, I'm told, licorice sugar. It was prepared by one of our senior staffers in field services in the club's area, and Gail, who's been with us for 30 years. She went on medical leave in early October to have some fairly serious surgery. She won't be back, and God willing, she'll be back as soon as possible, but probably in March. But before she left, she designed the cake, she specified it, she ordered it, she called the local bakery to have it ready. She left the slip with my assistant, Carla, and said he's to pick it up at 11 o'clock on the 9th and keep it cool, and then take it over to Fairlawn. I got behind my schedule this morning, and the telephone rang from the bakery at about 11:10, and they said, "Mr. Gallagher, your cake is ready." What Gail did, and it was very important to her, that was done absolutely right for you. She is so typical of the staff at ARRL, who labor long and hard for all of you guys. And they don't always get their pictures in the magazine, and they don't always get their name up in lights, but without them, we wouldn't have an organization. So I just want to raise one again, for putting together that cake for you, because it's a huge... There's several things I want to do for you tonight. I want to give you a report from headquarters. It's 9 months out. Tell you some of the things that we're doing. I want to talk a little bit about building on the future, some of the things we've done in streamlining our organization, some forays into new media, which I know technical people like to hear about, and some new initiatives that we've taken. And I also want to talk about something I talked about with the board and with the executive committee, Mike's on, and the administrative and finance committee, which are the 2 basic committees that run the league, the 3 major threats that we face, because we have to, insert some less than happy news, but hopefully galvanize your efforts. And I should say I'm really grateful to Mike Lysenko for coming tonight. Arriving late as he did.
Not for them.
Sure. You missed you missed a great Jersey dinner. I mean, really. As soon as I walked in the restaurant, I knew. But Mike has been going back and forth to Washington so many times in the last 6, 7 months, that he probably wakes up on the train and is unable to recall whether he's going north or south, you know, because it's been every week. So working on 1301. And so we owe him a tremendous vote of thanks for his volunteer efforts in behalf of our legislative advocacy activity. And Mike, I'm grateful you're here. You must be exhausted, is all I
I didn't know I was volunteering. I thought I got paid for that.
You don't want to be paid in the state of Connecticut. The taxes are too high. So as I was traveling recently past New Haven, where he has designed a couple of buildings, I thought about my favorite architect in the world, long gone, Louis Kahn. I was really lucky when I was in college to study architecture with Professor Kahn. It's actually the class in which I met my wife of 41 years. Louis was a kind of a crazy guy, a genius of design, and he would begin every single semester by picking up a brick from his podium, just an old Chicago paver brick, dented on the edges and chipped, and he'd hold it up and he'd say to the class, what does this brick want to be? Every brick wants to be something. So you can be really stupid when you're an undergraduate, right? I looked over at the woman who's now my wife and I said, what the hell is Louis talking about? What does this brick want to be? Well, what Kahn understood, and it's really important to societies, to organizations, to clubs that last for 60 years, he wanted to say, everything that man creates is made up of a number of small parts organized together in harmony. It's really built out of small parts, so everybody can build it, but it takes a lot of hands. It took me 25 years, honest to God, to figure out what he was saying. And if you look at his last work, which is the National Government Building in Bangladesh, and it sort of rises up, if you can go to Bangladesh, there's not a lot around it. It rises up like this gigantic structure. It's made entirely of bricks, single bricks. And when I saw it 24 years after Louis made the comment in class, I suddenly realized that everything that we do, we make up with small pieces. So our history is over right now, but I want you to hold on to that metaphor, because it's an important metaphor for our community and our society going forward. What does this brick want to be? We just completed our business planning process at the League. We do it every year. It used to be called budgeting, now it's called business planning, because we get into the nitty-gritty of strategy. Excuse me, I inherited a strategic plan from the board when I joined in February, carved out rather extensive, but lacking a certain operational specificity that makes a plan into operational steps. So it's been my job with the board, with the executive committee, with the senior leadership in the league to translate that vision into things that we can do, things that we can measure, things that we can accomplish. I went to every department head this year and I said, stop thinking about next year. Think out 2, 3, 5 years into the future. What's it going to be like? What do we need to do? What are the things that, the programs we have to develop, the service offerings we have to do, the finance, the investment, that sort of thing. And I think it was a new experience, and some people, excuse me, just jumped right on it. Maria Soma, who runs the VEC, she has a 5-year plan that she rolls forward every year. She can tell you how many new licenses are going to be issued within 3 or 4%, even going out 5 years. She had no trouble with it. Others had more difficulty. But what I asked for from everybody was an aggressive set of goals that were consistent with the plan that we developed in 2015, but included bodacious objectives, things you wouldn't have reached for before. Like, let's be the dominant contesting organization in the world. What do we need to do? What do we have to acquire? What do we have that's valuable, like Logbook of the World, DXCC? Which contests do we not have that we need to acquire? We put them all together so we can be number one, because it doesn't pay to be number two in anything. We want to become the leading source of information and education in amateur radio. We are the mother of intellectual property. A lot of people forget that American Radio Relay League is a publishing company too. I mean, we put out a 164-page magazine every month without fail, on time, in your mailbox, or electronically on your notebook or computer. Every month we do that. It's chock full of advertising. It has had an advertising track record. It is the envy of the publishing industry. When other publications are going out of business or cutting back because of the loss of advertising dollars, we've managed to hang in there pretty well for the last 40 years. But we've got a lot of intellectual property in the books that we publish, 149 titles. That makes us a fair, small, medium-sized publisher. And we're slated to put out 10 titles in this coming year, 10 new titles, and reprint some old ones. But, we're the epicenter of this information. What can we do with it? How can we better educate young people in the art, science, and enjoyment of amateur radio and bring them into our fold? At what point should we approach them? At what point in their academic career? And what are the vehicles that we can use to access them? Are they schools? Are they museums? Are they one-on-one mentorship? What's it going to cost? And education is not cheap. Educational material is not cheap. Ask your school board, they'll tell you. And what kind of priorities do we have to rearrange to accomplish that? So we're rolling this stuff around all fall, and I'm giving people agita, but they're responding tremendously well. And now we have a plan, and that plan is executed over a 3.5-year or so period. But it also is key to month-to-month performance. So every month I meet with the managers of the various departments, and we talk about the progress we're making and not making and what we need to do. This is something of a new approach, but I think it's important in a fast-changing set of circumstances, which is, I think, the circumstances that we're in. We're focusing on large and small things. I mean, we're a $15 million company with $22, $23 million of endowment. We're not potato chips, folks, and that's a heavy responsibility. We've been shipping stuff around using various, anybody wants these things, I'll have them for you if you want the slides. You don't have to take notes, unless you're obliged to take notes. Compare the dialogue with the slides. We negotiated a new deal with Federal Express like we've never had before. We're a big Federal Express customer. I mean, we ship books, we ship plaques, we ship awards, including a lot of shipment overseas, and we've been paying through the nose for it. We just haven't focused on it. So we made a deal with FedEx that will give us the benefit of lower domestic prices if we achieve a certain international volume. So we get a savings on the international side, we get a savings on the domestic side because of it. These are the little tweaks and things that you can do to an organization to make it run better. I'm befuddled by Logbook of the World. It's an extraordinary thing. It is the epicenter of contact information, propagation information. And yet, we're losing medium 6 figures, around $200,000 a year on Logbook. Why? We don't charge for it, and it's a gift, whether you're a member or not, to the entire World Amateur Radio community. We got to figure it out because it's very, very important, especially if you want to be the leading contest organization. It's amazing when you make changes how you can make friends everywhere. You know, we made some changes in the QSL Bureau, which has been running at significant loss for years and years and years, benefiting really only about 600 people. 6,000 users, but 90% of the traffic was 600 people. And I'm kind of sympathetic to it because I'm a paper QSL guy. I mean, I look at my at my QSLs going back to 50 years I've been licensed. My boys call it Dad's stamp collection. But I take them out every once in a while and I think about the friends that I had, many of whom are no longer alive. And it's very important to me. So we want to pass that paper right. We want to make sure that it gets to you, and we want to make sure that we can continue to offer it. So we made some changes to the pricing and international, and we're going to go work with the 1 through 0 plus 2 bureaus to see if we can take some best practices and spread them around. But when we started the budgeting process this year, we had a $350,000 deficit. Now, we've run a deficit frequently in the past. I will not run a deficit. It is against my nature to run a deficit. We've got to make the organization break even because we've got to provide for the future, and we can't touch the endowment except when we need it. The endowment's done very well in this market. 30 years on Wall Street, I'll tell you, there are bad markets too, in addition to good markets. So we went to close that $350,000 operating deficit with some cuts and some changes, a couple of staff reductions, probably the first in many years. But we got the budget balanced. We're investing in technology. A few months ago, I met with Craig Fugate, who some of you probably know, most of you know, is the administrator of FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. He's also a ham. He's a big fan of ham radio. He's a big fan of the league. He's a big supporter of ours. We went to meet with him and his staff for a couple of hours. And as I was leaving, he said to me, "You familiar with Whisper?" And I said, "Yeah." So what if we made up a bunch of beacons, Whisper beacons, that we could place all over the country? And they had 2 functionalities. I'm okay, I'm not okay. Imagine, that's very low level communications, very long range, very a powerful penetrator of noise, and very slow transmission of information, but it'll work. He said, "You think you can make one for us?" Well, what do you say to the administrator of FEMA, right? "Yes, sir, 3 bags full." And you see right there the offering. Joe Karsha at W1AW put that thing together. It's waterproof, battery-powered, clip-fed, shoulder-fired. Anyway, it's somebody here was in the military too. It runs itself. You pull the pin out, and it starts beaconing, "I'm okay, I'm not okay." But there's more. After some conversations yesterday in Princeton between the technology officer of FEMA and Joe Taylor, former professor of physics at Princeton University, and another guy from New Jersey, what do you know, who developed Whisper, we came away with some possibilities to make it an HF APRS. Again, very slow by comparison to VHF UHF APRS, but very much suited for FEMA's purposes. And what was suggested was what Craig calls the Waffle House Index. Waffle houses around the country have a policy, corporate policy, that when there's a disaster, they will feed first responders, areas people, whoever, first to make sure that they're taken care of. And they have an internal signaling system for all of the Waffle Houses. It's red, green, and red, yellow, and green. Green means, okay, we're running, everything's normal. Yellow means we're impaired somehow, maybe the generator's running, maybe the refrigeration is not up to speed. Yellow means we're waist up to water and we're shut down. And they use that with a Maidenhead and National Grid System arrangement so that headquarters knows where they are and what their status is. It's very easy to replicate. And using sensors that sense flood levels, which is the big problem that FEMA has. They don't know what flood conditions are on an hour-to-hour basis. They usually find out what they are by watching CNN. They're looking to have that kind of a sensor installed, and maybe a few others as well. This is something Joe Taylor pointed out yesterday, that if we can do it on a national scale, is an emergency communications modality that will belong entirely to the amateur radio community. Nobody else can do it. Think about that. Boxes, about $100 a piece. Use a Raspberry Pi and a battery. All right, we're focusing on new media content. Maybe you know it if you have kids that are millennials, or grandchildren that are millennials. They don't read the printed word. You won't find them with a magazine. They learn everything online and electronically. So we understood early this spring that if we were going to reach these young people and bring them into our fold, we would have to communicate with them in a way that they want to be communicated with. So we developed our first podcast. It is basically the replication of Joel Hallis's column in QST. How many of you have heard the podcast, The Doctor's In? Joel will be delighted. It's very, very successful. We've had 180,000 downloads in the last few months since it started. We've got about 8,000 unique listeners. That slide's a little bit out of date. I have to update it. We are very pleased with what we've been able to do because, number one, we can explore a topic in 15 or 20 minutes in a podcast that Joel only gets 850 words to do in a magazine. So you can really explicate a topic, talk about it, take questions about it, respond to members' questions. And at the end, that's what he does. He responds to member questions just the way he does in the column. It's been successful because of Joel and because of Steve Ford, but also because it engages the membership. Members write in. We're going to do more of these things. We're not sure exactly how they will evolve. We're going to do them in audio. We're going to do them in video because millennials like this mode of communication. And some of the grown-ups do too. Over half of our podcast listeners are regular members. It was very surprising. We thought the regular membership, the traditional membership, wouldn't go for it all, and actually it's very popular with them. What we're trying to do is cross over topics. We're trying to grab people that don't know about amateur radio, but they might be interested in a particular part of technology, like turning a Raspberry Pi into an emergency beacon, or the technology of batteries. And we can hook them with hashtags and keywords and bring them over, and then when we've got their attention, we can maybe move them into the printed magazine and into membership. And I think the big success story in new media this year has been our use of social media, our use of Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, which have grown enormously in the last year under the tutelage of Sean Kutzko, our PR manager. But it's become a very effective way to communicate. How many of you follow us on Facebook? Not enough. How about Twitter? Instagram? If you're not on Instagram, you don't know what's going on in the league. Because we got pictures up 3-4 times a day. We're posting stuff, posting videos today. We're watching those statistics climb. Last fall at Foxborough, we had a sort of a spontaneous college radio rally. See how many college radio clubs would be interested in coming together for a meeting. It was a standing room only attendance. I mean, we felt like the dog that caught the school bus. We said, what do we do now? Well, we now have a Facebook group in college radio. We don't have to do anything. The college guys and girls, they're doing it all themselves. We just stand back and monitor it a little bit. Social media, which was once perceived as a competitor to amateur radio, is no longer a competitor. It is an enabler. All right, education, you heard me say many times, is important. If we're going to achieve some of the very, very difficult to achieve and time-consuming goals of rebalancing the demographics of our community, we're going to have to change its gender, we're going to have to change its age, we're going to have to change its racial composition, we're going to have to change its economic opportunities composition. We've got to make our community look more like the rest of the world. So while we're building the next generation hams, we found that education is the most powerful way to affect that change. Education at almost every level. I want to show you a pilot program that we're running in Hartford. Now, people say, well, why are you running it in Hartford? And the answer is really easy, because it's just up the street, and we can staff it, and we can manage it and monitor it closely, and we hope that it is a model for other schools around the country, particularly schools that cater to disadvantaged people, disadvantaged young people, disadvantaged only in their economics. They come from families who know education is everything. Education is the nuclear weapon in the arsenal of the war on poverty. And they support their kids and they get them into good schools. So, we've got a program over at school called Grace Academy. Let me give you a little background on Grace Academy. Grace is one of the nativity schools. It's an education model developed by the Jesuit order. However, it is not a religious school. It is not a specifically religious school. It's a spiritual school, but non-denominational. But it uses the Jesuit education model of continuous critical thinking and critical questioning. Features that I find very often when I deal with people from New Jersey, because they're always asking questions, and these girls are always asking questions. School runs 11 months a year. August off. School opens at 7:30 in the morning and ends at 5:30 in the afternoon. Now you figured out what's going on here, right? Mom or dad drops the kid off, goes to work. The child is educated and looked after carefully for grades 5 through 8 until 5:30 and they're picked up again. The school is tuition free. It's entirely funded by private money, actually by a very wealthy Wall Street guy who pays the tuition for each one of these girls. It has the highest, the most rigorous academic standards of any grade school that's available. It's done at a cost of $11,000 per student, and in the city of Hartford right now, they will admit to spending $23,000 a student. I think it's probably higher. Incredibly effective education. World-class teachers, people are lining up to teach there. They called us about 6 months ago, 7 months ago, they said, can you provide for our girls an after-school enrichment program? Hour and a half once a week. They have no clue what they need, but we want something that they'll be interested in, that they'll find is fun. And we just jumped on it, just said, thanks for calling, this is exactly what we were looking for. 2 young men from Southington, Connecticut, members of Ham Club over at Southington, 16 years old, both of them amateur extra licensees. One of them amateur extra from 0 in 1 year. Oh, and also DXCC and WAS. They stepped forward and they wanted to be volunteers. They come from the same background as a lot of these girls. And this is something they wanted to do. So with Mike Corey, who's our immersion communications manager, we put together a curriculum that runs from basic electricity and electronics and elementary physics, all the way up, leading up to licensure at the technician level. Girls have the option to take it or not take it. We're there to offer it to them, for them to learn. We're not there to manufacture hams. If they become hams, that's wonderful. They meet us at 8th grade. Maybe they'll meet ham radio in college and decide, I recognize that, I'd like to do that. There's no pressure. It is the most successful activity that the school is offering now. Everybody in the class of 20 want to be in this course. And if you look closely at the picture, you'll see Austin, N1UIS, one of the two 16-year-old volunteers, fully engaged with those young women. They're making something. They're building something. They're building actually a Michigan Mighty 40-meter transmitter. 8 parts, hand-wound coils, using a crystal, color crystal. And these young women are absolutely amazed that you can make radio out of 7 parts. We've got it into a program of 18 one-hour units with a 30-minute lab, and we'd love to roll it out. So if you know a school in your area, particularly one that needs enrichment activity in the afternoon, we've got the program. Get on the air events, another area of important interest to us. I checked today, and we're very close to the goal of 1 million national parks on the air QSOs in Logbook of the World. So if any of you have a little spare time, you're not working 10 meters, don't worry, the band's dead, you're not going to be working. Do a national park connect. Let's get that over 1 million. This is one of the most successful get on the air programs that we've ever conceived. Not as so successful as the Centennial, but one of the great features of it is that it combines radio and informal contest. We sort of keep score, but we don't keep, it isn't as rigorous as some of the other contests that we have. But it introduces so many people to America's national parks and shares with them, the history of this country and the history and the beauty of our national parks. And the rangers are terrific. And we'd love to continue it forever, but a good thing will not go on forever. So it ends at the end of the year, and we'll have to come up with something new. We're over at Mark Twain's house for his 181st birthday. 950 QSOs in 5 hours. On Sunday, we will be operating from Greenwich, Connecticut, very near the spot where Major Edward Armstrong and Minton Cronkite set up an amateur station and made the first shortwave contact with Europe to Androsian, Scotland. Our station in Greenwich is about a mile away. Actually, the spot where the original station was, which you see in that picture, is now a $40 million horse farm. And they didn't want to have anything to do with amateur radio. They want to look at the antennas and not my farm. But we'll be very close by. But over in Androsian, Scotland, we will be operating, the Radio Society of Great Britain will be operating the Androsian station from the very same sheep field that it was operated from 95 years ago. That event that we're commemorating is really an extraordinary accomplishment when you think about it. 95 years ago, the only way you communicate with Europe, you could send a letter in a boat, took forever. You could use the transatlantic telegraph cable, slow, 25 cents a word, when 25 cents was a lot of money. Or you could use Marconi's station, but that wasn't any faster than the cable, and that was a single channel. This handful of people, Armstrong, who you may remember invented FM radio, and some others, they're amateurs, experimenters, but they wanted to break through the frontier of short waves. The frequencies that we were given, because nobody thought they had any commercial value. So they said, yeah, just give them to the hams. And they made that first contact. It's really, I was being interviewed by BBC, which is covering the event over in Scotland today, and I said, what was the reaction to it, not only from the amateur community, but from the community at large? And I made the observation that 2 days after this test was completed, which I guess would be the 13th, General Sarnoff, the chairman of RCA Corporation, showed up. He wanted to inspect the station. He knew what competition was. He had the commercial instincts of a shark. And the man at the other end in Scotland who did the verification of the message to confirm the message was sent and received was the district inspector for the Marconi company. Marconi had the instincts of a shark as well, and he saw that competition coming too. Now these guys didn't really get the financial reward for what they achieved, but I think it's extraordinary that it was folks like us that made that breakthrough. And it was, in its day, an extraordinary breakthrough. So if you're on the air on Sunday, look for us in the 40-meter and the 20-meter band.
1:60 a.m. and 80 meters if the band is open. Try to work both ends, try to work Greenwich, try to work Scotland. It would be easier to do from the East Coast if it's doable at all. And we're working on some other Get Over There events. We're hoping for an AM only event in April around Marconi, International Marconi Day. These are very important for all of us. They get us involved, they get us on the air. And that seems to be one of the difficulties, especially for younger, newer members of our community.